Welcome in, everybody. I'm so glad that you've made it to the first ever virtual wedding MBA. And I wish we could be together live in Vegas, but we will see you again in 2021. For now, let's get together and learn virtually all about Post It, how to automate your social media, take back your time, and spend more time in your own realm of genius. How are you doing? Hope you're doing well. My name is Greg. I am also known as GT. I own GT Marketing and Consulting in Birmingham, Alabama. I am a social media educator, the logistics manager for CC Designs and Events. If you're not familiar with that company, that is my wife's business. It is a luxury floral and design business, and I help with all of the back-end logistical information, which gives me a interesting insight into the wedding world to know a little bit more about how this works together, as opposed to just being a marketer that's been brought into an industry without any background. I am proudly a dad of 4, Daniel 21, Joshua 19, Andrew 16, and Isabella 7. And when I am not working on social media, marketing, weddings, or being a dad of 4, I like to get out for a round of golf. I hope that you're excited about this today because I know how hard social media can be for so many people, yet most people don't have the budget to be able to justify allowing someone else like myself or some other marketer out there that does social media marketing for a living to do that for you. So what I want to do today is give you a few simple tips to help you with that process of doing it on your own. It does not have to be a painstaking, time-consuming, all-encompassing situation. There are plenty of ways, plenty of tools out there in 2020. If one thing this year has taught us is that there are so many things we can do virtually. So we're going to look at some of those today, and I look forward to working through those with you. Before we continue, I just wanted to talk a little bit about this quote. You will never find time for anything. If you want time, you must make it. That was said by Charles Bixton. And I just love this quote because so many people say they wish they had more time. But ultimately what they're really saying is they wish they could prioritize better. So today we're going to talk about ways that we can do that. So what will we be learning today? First, we're going to talk about creating a content calendar that works, one that you can actually stick to. Won't that be nice? We're going to talk about batching content to increase your productivity. And we're going to talk about tools and apps that make online scheduling easier. So all of these things are important, but really what it ultimately is, what we're trying to do here today is take back your time. So let's take back your time today with a little bit of a look at how to do a content calendar and what that really means. You hear this term all the time out there, but ultimately, what is a content calendar? Really, it's nothing more than taking the time to plan out what you're looking to talk about, whether it's over a week, a month, or a year's time, and having a strategy in place, an outline in place to help you get where you're going. It's allowing your brain to wrap its mind around what you're really trying to communicate to your ideal customer. And isn't that what we really all want, is more ideal customers? I think so. So that's what we're going to talk about today. So the first thing we're going to do is we have to decide what to post. So when you're doing this, if you're like most people, the biggest obstacle to creating a content calendar is even knowing what to post. So the first thing we have to do is really figure out what it is that we've posted in the past that has resonated with others. So the most simple way to do that is simply to do an audit of your own social media. What do I mean by that? You hear the word audit and you start to kind of wonder what does somebody mean by an audit? All an audit is simply going back and checking back over the things that you've already done before. Instagram, Facebook, Pinterest, Twitter, they all have analytics. You can take a moment and dig into those analytics and see who the people that follow you, what type of posts they interact with, when they interact with them, and what they really say about what you're doing. So You just want to take a moment to really take a look at that and see how you can better serve them by producing more of the content that they're already interacting with. Let's not recreate the wheel. So many people are all the time trying to come up with all of this content to create, and they get overwhelmed, stressed out, and it's one more thing added to your plate. When in reality, you've got all the content you need right in front of you, and you've got all of the tools you need to put it into place. So simply look for patterns and trends. Social media is about appealing to your ideal client and providing them value. It's as simple as that. If you can provide value, people are going to come back and interact with your platforms more often. And ultimately, if you provide value online, you're much more likely to book that client in person. And that's what we ultimately are all trying to do. After you figure that out, you want to organize and manage your schedule. So once you determine what you're going to post, it is time to decide when and where to post. So you've just got to supplement your post with more of what is already appealing to your ideal client. The easiest way to do that is to figure out when and where you've already posted that they're interacting with. How do you do that? There's a lot of different opinions about how often you should post to stay top of mind, but ultimately you have all the tools you need right there in front of you. If you go into your analytics in Facebook and Instagram and Pinterest, it will break down not the general rule for the best times to post to interact with content across their platform as a whole, but your individual contacts, your individual followers, how they interact with what you're already putting out there into the world. And ultimately, if you look through all of those analytics, you can figure out, is 2 p.m. on Wednesday the best time to post? Is this the best time of day to interact with others? Really, it's all about organizing your schedule so that you have time to interact a little before and a little after you make a post. So what I'm going to do today is show you ways to go ahead and organize these posts, pre-plan, have these things in place in a hopper ready to go so that you don't have to be scrounging around trying to figure that out on the day of when you're like, oh, I haven't even taken time to post today. And then you're just willy-nilly throwing something out there because you feel like it's what you're supposed to do. We want to get away from the I'm posting because I feel like that's what I'm supposed to do and get back to actually posting content that makes sense for the client you're trying to attract. Ultimately, we want to attract more ideal clients. We're not doing this social media game just because people tell us we're supposed to. We're doing this social media to interact with more of the clients that we're getting used to working with. So, when and where to post. As a general rule, you want to post 1 to 2 times per day on Facebook, 1 to 3 times per day on Instagram, and we want to post 2 to 5 times on stories. Stories are a great way to interact with your clients. It gives them behind the scenes, gives them a great look into the type of work you do, and it's another opportunity for you to show value in what you are doing. It also allows you to show them that you are an expert in your field, and it allows you to really get to know them they get to know your personality. And we all think that we want to be hired on our merits as what type of designer we are, or what type of planner we are, or what type of photographer we are. But ultimately, a lot of people make the decision about, do they know, like, and trust you? I'm sure you've heard that before, but it's true. I mean, think about your own buying patterns. When you're interacting with somebody, if you feel like you know them, or you feel like you can get to know them and trust them, you're more likely to buy from them. So we want to spend time making sure that we do that as well. You want to build that relationship with them, and you can do that right through that camera as you talk to them. And there's so many people that get scared about being on camera and don't want to show their face. That's fine. Start out with sharing what you're doing. Share your hands as you make an arrangement. Show your gear if you're a photographer or a DJ. you're a wedding planner, show the back end as you're making a floor plan and a layout in Aisle Planner or whatever other software you use. Show that screen and just use a voiceover to share what you're doing, and that will allow you the opportunity to connect and provide that value. Ultimately, though, we want to make sure that we're posting during the most optimum time for your audience. Every audience is different, so make sure, like I said previously, that you dig into those analytics. If you don't know where those are, you can reach out to me after this is over and I can deep dive into analytics a little bit more. And there's a couple of other people that are already talking about that here at Wedding MBA, so I didn't want to get too deep into the weeds of the specifics on exactly how to do that. But ultimately, they're insights on Instagram. You've got your Facebook insights. You've got your analytics on on Pinterest and Twitter. So just take a moment and dig in there. You can't mess it up. It's your account. So just take time to really get to know the people that you're interacting with. Also, you want to just make a note of trends and different patterns. So you may start to see as you track these things that there's a certain day of the week that resonates well, or a certain time of day that resonates well, or a certain hashtag that always seems to bring those things up. And those hashtags can be switched up based on what you're, make sure that they're relevant to the post that you're sharing so that you can make do with knowing exactly what you're posting. People will resonate better with you if when they find your work from a hashtag that it actually makes sense. Make sure that you mix in some different posting times to ensure that you learn your audience. One thing you don't want to do is if you're not attracting all of the people that you're looking to attract, if you're not getting enough of your ideal client following you, you're getting other vendors or your friends and family that are never going to buy from you, you have to change it up. You know, that old saying that if you keep doing what you've always done, you'll get the same results you've always gotten. Well, that's so true. If you keep posting the exact same way your analytics are showing, and never test it, then it's never going to get any better. You're never going to get any differing results because you're only going to be appealing to the people who are already interacting with your account. So before you make that change, make sure that you set aside some time to plan. You know, I'm going to stick with what the analytics show me, and it shows Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 2 p.m. Well, mix up another post on one of those days at a totally different time, whether it be a.m. or late in the evening, just to see what kind of reaction you get. And then lastly on this topic, remember that the calendar is a tool to make your life better, not just another to-do list item to be dreaded. The last thing that I want to do here today is make you dread having one more thing on your plate. So getting back to the content calendar that actually works, the next thing you want to do is track and analyze your content calendar. So you don't want to view your calendar as just a planning tool. You want to use it to review and track your performance. So what do I mean by that? So many people spend time making this elaborate content calendar and this plan, but then they forget to actually go back and see what worked. So use the calendar to track what hashtags did you use, what time did you post, what type of image did you use? Was it a still image? Was it a video? Did you take the time to put a call to action that we'll talk a little bit more about later? But you really want to take all the time to track this information, because ultimately you don't want to just continue to do the same thing over and over and over again and not know if it's working. I mean, one way you're going to know is if you're getting more sales, but that's not always easy to determine where that original client came from. The client interaction is interesting. So just for some general rules, you said, Greg, I understand all of that. In theory, what you're saying makes sense, but I just don't even know where to begin. My account is fairly new. My business is in the first couple of years, and I've never been consistent on social media. Where do I even start? So let me give you a little bit of some tips here. The best times as a general rule on Instagram, which Instagram is the one that I'm going to spend the most time on because that is where the majority of your wedding clients are going to be coming from today, is going to be Instagram and Pinterest for the inspiration, the video, and still imagery that are available on those two platforms. Interaction with business to business, other wedding vendors is still very viable on Facebook. It's also still very viable in many parts of the country that the parents are helping sell or helping buy the wedding. You're having to sell to the parents, I should say. They're still on Facebook, but as a general rule, the majority of your online traffic being driven to your website is going to come from Instagram and Pinterest. So let's spend a little time there. On Instagram, the best time to post on Sunday is anytime between 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. Mondays, 11 a.m. to 5 p.m. Tuesdays, 9 a.m. and noon. Wednesdays, either 11 a.m. or 3 p.m. Thursdays, 11 a.m. or 6 p.m. Fridays, 9 a.m. to noon or 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. And Saturday, 11 a.m. or 9 p.m. That 9 p.m. time frame is always interesting to me, but if you think about it, on a Saturday night, you've kind of started to get through your weekend and you start to scroll on that phone. Think about your own personal habits as you work through how you should appeal to your clients. Think about how you engage with social media, and generally that will give you a better example of what you should be doing for yourself. It's think about how you interact, what you do, what brands you interact with, what type of content they're putting out. This is not rocket science. You can take a moment and take a step back and really look at what you do and how you do it. So what should you be tracking? Of course, you want to track engagement, and by engagement we mean likes, comments, reach, total interaction. You want to make sure that you look at link clicks. If you've got a call to action in your caption, then you want to take the time to see, did the client follow through with what you actually asked them to do. You can do that very simply by either making sure that you know where your leads are coming from through Google Analytics, or if you set up something like a bit.ly link, that's bit.ly, you can go there and do a URL shortener. If you create that link there, you actually have trackability. And then, of course, lastly, you want to use just your analytics to see about, is your account growing? When I say, is your account growing, we're not just talking about follower growth. We're talking about overall engagement growth. Are you getting more interaction? I kind of alluded to a little bit earlier. One thing that I've always enjoyed, I heard this first from Gary Vee a couple of years ago, but take the time to interact with other people. So I really tried to take the time to interact with at least 9 other accounts prior to posting. So if you do that in the first half hour or so before you're going to make a post, then just think about the fact that those people are now wondering, oh, tell me a little bit more about this person. I wonder why they liked my post or why they commented on my post. Take the same action that you want to result. So if you want more people to like your stuff, like their stuff. People are selfish. We're all, as humans, we all wonder what's in it for us. So give back, like other people's things. Interact with the hashtags that you're going to be using. Click on those hashtags and go like and comment on the 10 most recent accounts that have used those hashtags. You'll be surprised how much more engagement you will get on the back end of your own post by doing that. What should the right content calendar do? Well, pretty simple. It should help you keep your brand messaging consistent. It should allow you to publish content consistently, and it should allow you to engage more effectively with your audience. So ultimately, it doesn't have to be anything fancy. This can be, we're going to talk about ways that you can do this, but it can be as simple as an app on your phone. It could be your notepad on your phone. It could be a paper, old school pen to paper situation. There's plenty of other ways that you can interact with people. And so really you just want to figure out what works for you. What are you comfortable with doing? and what are you comfortable interacting with. Once you decide how this calendar is all going to work for you, then we're going to move into batching content. This is where you really start to get back your time. So batching content is any type of content that you create that can be batch produced. It will make your life so much easier. It's a brilliant strategy not only for saving time, but also for being impressively creative, focused, and productive. So what do we do to batch content? What am I talking about? Ultimately, this is where you take the time to spend focused time on creating content. It allows your brain to be more creative. It allows you to be more focused and ultimately more productive. So when we do all of this, it just allows the creativity to flow, and you get out of this habit of trying to figure out what you should post on a daily basis because you've already pre-planned all of this. You've allowed yourself the freedom and the flexibility to interact and allow the brain to work to where it really makes sense for what you want to do. It will really allow you the freedom to get in the zone, as they say, to get in the mindset of what you need to be doing. So, what are some steps for batching content? I love this picture. Your ideas matter. Write them down. We always think that we're going to remember those great ideas. Trust me, you never will. We all get busy. So make sure you write them down. As you sit down to brainstorm, or as you sit down to batch content, though, we're going to brainstorm ideas. It is so much easier to come up with multiple ideas when you set aside time devoted to creativity compared to once a day trying to come up with those amazing ideas. So grab a piece of paper or open a new document or list on your phone and list as many ideas as you can for your blog or your newsletter. I say that because you may say, Greg, well, I don't even blog. Well, you should be, for multitudes of reasons that I don't have time to go into today, but ultimately it will help your SEO for your website, which is search engine optimization. But the real reason for the purpose of the discussion of today with batching your content, if you start with the blog or the newsletter, it's a large piece of content that can be broken down into much smaller pieces across all of your other social media platforms. Then you're not recreating the wheel for every piece of content you're trying to put out. You can get multiple pieces of content in all forms, whether it be images, blog posts, videos. They all drive back to your website to capture that perfect ideal customer. So just simply sit down and start writing out ideas as they come to you. You don't have to focus on what is going to relate to the next thing. This is purely a brainstorming time. You have set this time aside on your calendar. You've blocked it off. A lot of people talk about block scheduling. Block scheduling and batching content kind of go hand in hand. So you've taken the time to set aside, I'm not looking at email right now. I'm not answering phone calls. I'm not interacting with staff. I'm not going to pick up my kids. This is the time that you decided and looked ahead and pre-planned on your calendar to sit down and brainstorm and come up with ideas that really will make your content better and ultimately give you time back. So get in the habit of trying to come up with at least 20 ideas. That's 20 minutes. If you devote 20 minutes to coming up with 20 good ideas to get your brain going, then this will create amazing results for you as you continue on. Do not squander time, for that is the stuff life is made of. Benjamin Franklin. In case you can't tell from all the stuff behind me, I love American history. I love presidents and everything that goes with it. So I had to throw in this quote here to make sure that we got a little bit of some of my things here in the background from some of my favorite people. And you just really want to make sure that you think about how important time is. I put this quote in there to talk a little bit about why I have this type of background, but ultimately I put it in there because the quote is true. After you've brainstormed the ideas, the next step is to create an outline for your post. What do I mean by that? So simply, an outline gives you a path and a way to plan to use the content across multiple platforms. when you outline several posts at once, it allows you to see the similarities and potential links for a series or an ongoing tip and trick segment that you can use, that you don't have to recreate the wheel. This allows you to think about how you can go about working together. You'll start to see patterns and trends in your own thoughts and processes as you start to put these things down on paper. It'll also free you up to not worrying about exactly what you're going to say about each post. This is simply giving you an outline as to where you can go, what story you want to tell with your brand, what type of things you want to be known for when people interact with your online personality. This is really just allowing you that opportunity to put that down and get you thinking. And it allows you to open up that mindset and will ultimately pay major dividends for you as you work through that. Next, you want to actually draft your posts. Get the posts on paper or into your app of choice and then come back for editing later. So right now, we're not worried about it being perfect. We're not trying to create the perfect caption. You want to keep the creative juices flowing. So you want to find your own drafting style. Some people like to write them all out to where they're close to how it's going to be in the finished product. There are some people that just like to do bullet forms to give the ideas to come back to after you've thought about it over a period of time, and then you come back and edit that into a more narrative type situation. There are people that like to go ahead and add their favorite emojis in, or maybe even think about what images would go with this, what content would work well. That's totally up to you. It's different for every person. Really what you want to do is remember that this is a rough draft. This does not have to be perfect. This is not something that you're trying to get ready to publish right now. This is the next step in the batching of the content process that will allow you to save time, which is ultimately what we're trying to do, is save time and get you back to doing the tasks that only you can do. As a business owner, if you spend more time focused on the tasks that only you can do, that can't be delegated to someone else, then you will make more money. You will identify with more ideal clients, and you will enjoy your life as an entrepreneur that much more. The next step in batching for content is coming back to edit. Now, I recommend that you don't do this on the same day. So you should set time when you're scheduling out your week. Make sure that you've set another time, again, block schedule time to come back and edit. If you give yourself time to breathe and put on your editing hat, you can come back fresh, and some of those ideas that you had in the brainstorming phase, the outline phase, and the drafting phase, you will actually come up with new ways to say it. You may have even run across ideas as you've been moving out and about throughout the week. You'll think about ways that can interact with other things. It is very difficult to try to switch from the creative hat to the editing hat. There are some people that don't have the editing gene per se, and maybe you need to task that out. This is an administrative task that could easily be tasked out to someone else, a copywriter, an editor who has a little bit more that is their realm of genius. We talked about trying to get you doing only the things you can do. This is one of those things that you can outsource. Now, I understand not everyone has the budget to do that, but there's plenty of other ways. You can do trade outs. You may have a service that you can provide to someone else that does this, and you can swap and work together for the good. So there's many ways into looking at that. And the other thing you have to look at is anything you're trying to outsource, consider, is there a way to make it an investment rather than an expense? What do I mean by that? It's an investment if it frees up your time to do something that will make more money than what you're paying for the person to be doing that task. So then it becomes an investment. It's no longer an expense. You have taken that away. You've taken away that fear of the expense side of your business, paying out that revenue that you work so hard to retain, when really, if you think about it, you're allowing yourself to go out and make more money because you've turned that over to someone else who has that in their wheelhouse that can do it twice as fast as you, more effectively than you, and more efficiently as well. Make sure that when you outsource that you know what you're getting for your time and your money. Also, when you're allocating these resources out, think about what images you want to use. Other admin tasks that you can source out is actually scheduling of the post based on the analytics. You've already taken the time to set aside and do the research, but you can actually do that by giving it to someone else to do that. You don't have to be the one to actually do that task, is what I'm saying. Things to consider when you're creating content. What is the goal of your post? So, too often we spend time creating posts because we feel like that's what we're supposed to be doing, right? I mean, how many has been there? Have you been there? I know you have. We've all done it where you sit down and go, oh, I haven't posted today. Let me do it because I know they say I'm supposed to post every day on Instagram. Well, while that's true, I want to encourage you not to post for the sake of posting. Take the time to schedule this in advance, and I promise you it's going to be freeing for you. It's going to take away the burden, the stress, and the overwhelm that comes with doing this on your own. The next thing you want to do is, what is the number one thing that you want people to take from your content? What do you want to be known for? What do you want your business to be reflected? I mean, this is so important. When you think about your business, how do you want people to talk about you when you're not in the room? What do you want them to say about your brand? If you can come up with what people say about you when you're not in the room, man, that's the reputation that you're going to be known for. It's the legacy you're going to leave as you build your brand. So if you don't know what you want them to say, they will come up with their own things to say. So make sure that you are controlling that narrative with the content that you're putting out there. Make sure that your content matches the quality of work that you're producing as a wedding professional. There's nothing worse than knowing you're as good as a competitor or better and not getting the business because you're not producing the content that tells the clients out there that you can do that type of work. Next, what do you want them to do after they consume your content? This is your call to action. We've all heard of a CTA or a call to action, but do you really take the time to sit and think about what do you want them to do after they're done reading that post? Do you want them to visit your website? Do you want them to leave a comment below? Do you want them to go watch something in your Instagram story? Go to the link in your bio. Do you want them to buy your product? You have to know what you're trying to accomplish so that you can get that action to take place. If you don't direct them to go, people won't do it. I read a stat that said that we have to make 350 decisions per day. So anytime you can give someone the opportunity to not have to make that decision, you lead them down the track, you tell them exactly what you want them to do, oh, it's so much easier for them to interact with you because they know what you want them to do next. And then lastly, is my content fun and valuable? You want to make sure that you've had a little fun with them, that every post is not promotional. That is the biggest thing I see people making a mistake on. You're either on one side of the ditch or the other. You either promote, ask for people to buy from you, or you never ask. It's always just look at my pretty work, look at this beautiful photo, and you never ask them to engage with you. If you have to find that happy median to where you can make sure that you are sharing enough content that's inspirational. It allows people to see the type of work that you can do, what type of work you want to attract more of, but you also have to take the time to ask them to buy from you. Think of it like a sitcom. This was some great information that I got as I was back in my advertising days when I sold TV advertising. And I had a boss that told me, think about a sitcom. You sit there for 30 minutes, but every 10 minutes, the show stops and it goes to advertising for 2 to 4 minutes. Then you get 10 more minutes of that show when it comes back, and then it goes to another commercial break. So we are willing, or at least back before DVR, we were willing to sit and watch those advertisements knowing that it was coming back to our show. Same thing with your social media. You want to make sure that you are providing enough valuable content, 10 posts for every 2 that you ask for something in our scenario of using the sitcom as an example. You want to make sure that you're providing enough valuable content in between each time so that when you do ask for something, people stop their scroll, slow down, and figure out, oh, this person's been providing me value. Now they're offering something that costs money when they've been giving me all of this valuable information for free. Maybe I should take a moment to really step back and figure out if this is something worth doing for myself. You want to take that time to reach out to the people that you've nurtured along the way because they've gotten to know you. Again, back to know, like, and trust. Do they know you? Have you built a connection to where they like you? And have you provided content that they can trust? Have you given them options to see that you know what you are talking about, that you're an expert in your field, that you know how to work with other people in the industry, that you are a valued member of the wedding community in the area where you live? If you've done all those things, then it's much more likely that they will come back to you when they're ready to buy the product or service that you have. All right, so what will batching do for my business? Ultimately, we've talked about, I've given you some ideas of how to batch, how to create a content calendar, but what's this all about? Should I really even be doing this? Like, is it really worth all the time that you're saying that it will be, that it will save me? And I'm here to tell you that it will. I've tested this. Batching allows your ideas time to mature. So let me take a step back for just a second and tell you a story. So I come from a varied background. So I graduated from Samford University in Birmingham, Alabama with a business degree with a minor in marketing. But I've had some interesting career path along the way. I worked for State Farm Insurance, and in that job I saw people on the worst day of their lives most of the time. Their house had either burned down, a tree had fallen on it, or some kind of major catastrophe had come along like a hurricane or a tornado, as I was on the hurricane disaster relief team. After finishing that, I went on the complete opposite direction. I wanted to find a way to see people in a more happy environment after 4 years of doing that. And so I became a manager of a very well-run restaurant here in Birmingham, and I enjoyed that. It was a cool, upbeat atmosphere, 30-plus TVs all around with the best sporting events on every day and every night. And that was interesting, and it allowed me the freedom to kind of learn what I liked, allowed me to learn how to interact with people when they were having a good time after I'd already learned how to interact with people, as I said, on their worst day. I'd already done that with the insurance and how to deal with that. But then I circled around and I became a manager of a Fortune 500 company, worked my way up in one of the big box home improvement stores. And in doing that, it allowed me to see how important it is to work with a variety of people and how multiple pieces fit together. And so you've got the operational side, you've got the sales side, you've got the marketing side. How do all of those things work together? What does all this have to do with batching content? Well, we kind of all wear all of those hats. As a small business owner and an entrepreneur, you have to wear all the hats. But when you try to switch from one hat to another too quickly, you're not very effective and you're not very efficient. Batching allows your ideas time to mature. Even though you're not consciously thinking about them, the brain will marinate on them and you'll be able to come back to them at a later time and be much more effective. It will allow you to see, again, how I talked about how things would interconnect, how you'll be able to relate this blog post with the next blog post, or how you'll be able to use this piece of content on Instagram. Ooh, if I repurpose that and change the imagery and put it on Pinterest, this could work well to drive traffic to my website, back to my portfolio page. All of these things work well together, but they won't if you don't take the time as the one driving the train to keep it on the tracks. The next reason that batching will work for you is that you'll be able to use pockets of weird time. Weird time is when you're waiting on your kids for those extracurricular activities after school. Maybe you're sitting in the dentist office in the waiting room, and shocker, he's running behind. How about listening to the on hold music forever while you're trying to schedule that next appointment with a client, a doctor, or other person on the other end of the phone? If you use this weird time to tackle just a portion of the process, we're not trying to do the entire process. We're not going to brainstorm ideas, move into an outline, move into our draft, the post, and then move into the editing phase. No. We're only going to pick one of those things, whatever you feel the most comfortable with, whatever amount of time you have, these little pockets of time that will allow you to utilize that to where you can easily break away and put the hat back on of where you were headed that's on your calendar. But you've got these little pockets of time that you can fit in there that will allow you, when you get this batching method, it allows you to put that time to use rather than it being a waste or get filled up with something else that just becomes a busy filler. So often as an entrepreneur, small business owner, we fill our day because we feel like it's important to be busy rather than to actually be productive. There's a big difference between being busy and productive, which rolls right into the next thing on the list of what batching will do for your business. It will reduce procrastination. It takes a lot of energy to write, so procrastination often sets in. Even for the best writers, they will often find the smallest task that will give them the justification to push off the writing. You've heard the term writer's block. That's very common because you put so much pressure on yourself that you will not be able to do that. And so often that's why our posts on social media take a hit, because you put that pressure on yourself that you haven't posted today, you haven't posted this week, oh my gosh, I haven't posted in days, and you put the pressure on yourself and then you can't come up with anything good to write. You're not happy with the caption, you don't know what image to select, you find yourself constantly scrolling through your Dropbox or Google Drive trying to find an image that you would represent what you want to put out in the world, when if you would have just taken the time to batch that content, set aside time for that like you do everything else in your business, put that on your calendar, create that content calendar to bring it all together and know where you're trying to drive your social media train, then you will reduce your overall procrastination and you will allow yourself to be much more effective. If you don't feel like writing, you can just come up with ideas. If you don't feel like writing, go back and edit some of the ones that you've already done, reread them, review your analytics. We all the time talking about making sure we've taken the time to review those analytics, but do you set aside time to do that? And it's not a one-time process. You can't just look at those analytics at the beginning as you're working this out. You have to do this as an ongoing. I review all of my clients' analytics at least once a month. I try to do it bi-weekly, but every client that I have gets it done every month with a report at the end of the month of how we performed this previous 30 days compared to what we anticipated when we created the content calendar, where we have areas to improve and why, and then what worked well. There's a lot of times this is not science. Some of this is takes just testing and trying and trying out new things. And so what worked that you didn't expect to work or worked better than you anticipated, those things are often more important than the things that you knew that were going to work. And then lastly, the thing that batching will do for your business is it will allow you to collaborate with others. It will give you the opportunity to come up with guest post ideas, maybe somebody you want to invite to write on your blog or to take over as a guest, taking over your Instagram stories or your Facebook stories, or potentially maybe there's somebody that you want to reach out. You think that they have the perfect audience for you, that they are reaching more of the ideal client that you're looking to reach more of. Draft an email to them, reach out to them in a DM on Instagram and explain what value you could provide their audience and see if they would be interested in bringing you on as a guest blogger or a guest social media person for them. And I will give you a little secret. They're all looking for content too. So more than likely they will take you up on that offer simply because they need content on their platform as well. They are struggling to figure out what all to post and when to post it. So somebody being willing to provide content for them that they don't have to come up with, or that they can come up with the ideas of questions to ask you and then allow you to be the one that's actually answering and doing most of that content. Wow, that is mutually beneficial. What else will this do for you? People like to work with people they know. People like to work with people that they like. And people like to work with people that they trust. So if you want to build your brand, build your audience, what better way to do that than to collaborate with other people who are already reaching your ideal audience? That is the easiest way to up your overall look. It's the easiest way to make sure that you're reaching the client that you want to reach. There's no secret formula to reaching these people. It's really just thinking through, how do I get my name and my business and my brand more in front of more people who are likely to do business with me. The quickest way is to do business with people who are already doing business with them. All right, so we've talked enough about building a content calendar. We've talked about batching your content and coming up with a way to spend more devoted time to that. Now let's talk about some of the tools that will help you make online scheduling easier and more efficient. First, you want to make sure that you utilize a task management tool. My personal favorite is Asana. It's a personal choice because you can create multiple projects, lists, or boards. They can be viewed in multiple layouts, and tasks can be shared and assigned with due dates and status updates to you and other members of your team. Another very popular one is Trello. This is a great tool. It's very similar to Asana. It's in board format, so I like to talk about it as the virtual sticky note method. Some other people really like Monday.com. It's a task management tool that a lot of larger teams use. I'm not nearly as familiar with that. I've used both Trello and Asana personally. But regardless of which one you choose, you just want to pick one that works for you and then stick with it. It's very easy to find that new shiny penny and always be looking for that next great thing. But ultimately, you just want to find a tool that makes your life easier and helps you stick with the plan that you've put in place. When you're done with that, you want to figure out what social scheduling tool you want to use. When I talk about social scheduling tools, these are actual apps or desktop versions that allow you to pre-schedule your social media. One of the most popular ones is Tailwind. It gained popularity with Pinterest. It has also become a approved social media scheduler for Instagram. Not all scheduling apps are allowed on the API of Instagram to post directly to Instagram without getting you in trouble as a third party. So make sure you know which ones are and which ones are not approved. A quick Google search will tell you that. But Tailwind is one that will work. It also has some great analytical options for you to go back and research what's working. and what's not. Hootsuite is one that does a multitude of products very well. It kind of became popular originally for Twitter and has expanded out. The one that I personally use, I manage 14 different social media clients, and I do them all through SmarterQueue. It is very effective for all your social media platforms, planning ahead. You can see it all in a calendar view. That's what I really like the most about SmarterQueue, is that I can see the overall landscape of all my clients, color coordinate them. You could do it from the standpoint of color coordinating blog posts, Instagram posts, Facebook posts as different colors, or you can put them in there by those social media platforms ahead of time and see where they all interact, where you have them pre-scheduled. I don't love the way that it auto posts to Instagram, so typically I have mine set up to give me a reminder so that I can manually go in and post to Instagram so that it still is native to Instagram, so that you don't run into any issues. I've seen engagement go down some when using SmarterQueue because it's not always the best way to produce the hashtags. I like to put my hashtags in the first comment, and so you can't do that from the SmarterQueue app. So in order to overcome that, I just pre-plan it, schedule it out the way I want it, and then I have it alert me on my phone that it's time to post for one of the clients, and I go in and manually do that. You can also do that through Planoly. You can pre-schedule and actually put your hashtags in the first comment as an option on the paid version. It gets very pricey when you're trying to do that over multiple social media accounts. So I only do that for a couple of my clients where I'm posting much more frequently on Instagram based on their analytics and based on their overall budget. So you have to take that into consideration, whether it would be worth that to you or not for your own personal posting. And the other one that's very popular for Instagram is Later. I haven't used this much for myself, but it is one that a lot of people that I trust in this industry tend to use. It is it grew up as the Instagram approved pre-scheduling app. So it is definitely one worth looking into for Instagram as you try to work through which ones will work for you. Time is a fixed income, and as with any income, the real problem facing most of us is how to live successfully within our daily allotment. So what has this all been about? Like I said earlier, it's about time and how we use it. We all have the same 24 hours in a day, but the people who are being the most successful with it have figured out how to block schedule their day in a way that allows them to spend the majority of their time on the things that they're really good at, things that only they can do, and they've outsourced the rest. Or they've boxed it up into small pieces of time where you focus so intently on that piece of product that you can focus in on it and make sure that you get as efficiently done as possible. It is so easy to get overwhelmed. It's so easy to get sidetracked. You have to take the time to make sure that you are spending the time on the things that make you the most money. So, and I know it's not all about money, but the money equals time. Money equals freedom. Freedom to spend more time with your kids, spend more time doing hobbies and things that you enjoy doing. Think back to when you started as a small business owner. Why did you get into it? For most of us, it was freedom. It was to get involved in things that we couldn't do working for someone else. So if you want to spend more time doing those things, then you have to learn to shift your mindset and do some things differently. And outsourcing everything is just not a reality to everyone. So if that's not your reality, then figure out ways to become the most efficient social media manager of your own content. So let's recap. Productivity is not about creating more time. So let's recap. Productivity is not about creating more time for tasks, but rather utilizing the time we have more effectively. Number 2, create a plan that works for you, and ultimately just be consistent. The plan that you create for yourself has to fit into the overall schedule that you have for your business. It has to make sense around the responsibilities that you have, that is going to be different than your neighbor, that's going to be different than your competitor, it's going to be different than your spouse. You have to find what that plan is, take a little bit away from whatever I've talked about today, pull the pieces out that will work within the confines of your business. Next, I want you to try batching. It will help your creativity and your efficiency. Schedule time to work on tasks uninterrupted so that you are more focused. We all want to believe that we're multitasking experts, but in reality, the more often we try to switch hats midstream, the less effective we are on every task that we touch. If you spend time focused on the things uninterrupted, you will be more efficient, you will be more creative, and you will be more effective. And then lastly, let's utilize technology to automate the process, to tweak it, and be willing to try again with something new. You can't expect new results doing the same thing you've always done. So take the time to make sure pause right here. So you can't do the things you've always done and expect different results. Take the time to try new things. Don't get frustrated with yourself. Analyze what worked, what didn't work, and then try it again. This is all a trial and error type scenario, and there's no right or wrong answers. It's not science. It's not 2 + 2 = 4. Sometimes it works on one account and won't work on another. I try the exact same type of content, the exact same photographer might have taken the image, and I can do it on 2 different accounts, and it's going to interact differently because the algorithm is set up to respond to the followers of each individual account and how they interact with the material. So yours is going to change over time. What you set up today won't work forever. Things change as you progress, so make sure that you're willing to make those changes. Lastly, I would like to invite you to connect with me. I have a free Facebook group. It's Marketing Strategies with GT. It's there on your screen. Would love for you to come and enjoy that group. I do tips and tricks. We talk about marketing ideas, try to keep you up with the latest trends in technology and news. Also post daily on Instagram, GT Marketing and Consulting. And then just for being here today, I'm going to give you my December content calendar. This is a 30-day supply of captions, story suggestions, weekly stories that will allow you to brand your story for the entire week to increase engagement. It allows you ways to kind of know ahead of time how to interact with others, and it will allow you the freedom to not have to worry so much about what you're going to post throughout the month. And then I offer this as a monthly marketing forum with GT. It's a monthly membership group where you get the captions, the story guide, and then monthly group coaching with me. But this one is completely free. So just go to bit.ly.com /GTM for GT Marketing December, and you can download that for free. I appreciate you being here today. Again, I can't wait to be with you in person next year in Las Vegas. Thank you, Shannon, for having me and all of the Wedding MBA team. And I look forward to seeing all of your smiling faces there in Sin City next year.